You did what? Zara exclaimed. She bought the ticket. Sungjin responded. Without asking. Without asking. Without calling. Without calling. Without telling anyone. She told the airline. The wall of Zara's kitchen stared back at her. The wall offered nothing. Not comfort. Not explanation. Not even the basic courtesy of pretending this was a normal Tuesday. Zara Kim was eating cereal when her phone buzzed. This was not unusual. Her phone buzzed regularly. It was a Tuesday morning in Atlanta. The cereal was getting soggy at a predictable rate, and the most dramatic thing she expected before 9 o'clock was I-285 traffic and the particular suffering of a commute that somehow always took longer on the days she was running late. She was a graphic designer with a decent apartment, a functioning car most of the time, and absolutely no reason to believe that Tuesday was going to be anything other than Tuesday. She looked at the screen. A message from Sungjin. She read it. The spoon stopped moving. She read it again. Then she set the cereal bowl down with the careful, controlled precision of someone whose hands had received information that the rest of the body had not yet processed, picked up her phone, and called him back. He answered on the first ring. Sungjin. Yes. Halmoni Park Sunja bought a ticket to Atlanta. Correct. When does she land? Thursday. Thursday. Yes. Today is Monday. I know. You were telling me on Monday. She told me this morning. She bought the ticket when exactly? A pause arrived. A long pause. The kind of pause that contains significantly more information than any pause should legally be allowed to contain. Saturday. Zara put her hand flat on the kitchen counter. The cereal had become something else entirely. A casualty. She was not going to eat it. She was going to pour it down the drain and stand in her kitchen and process the fact that her Korean grandmother had purchased international travel without consulting a single living human being and considered this completely reasonable. She started. Then from somewhere in the background of Sungjin's phone, Ji-hyun's voice arrived like a fire alarm that had been going off since Saturday and had not been adequately addressed. I tried to tell her. Is Ji-hyun coming? Zara asked. A shorter pause. A guiltier one. Yes. Did she agree to come? She is coming. Uncle Sungjin. I need you to answer the question I asked. Did she agree? Ji-hyun, clearly now moving closer to the phone. I did not agree. I was informed. There is a critical difference between agreeing and being informed, and this family treats them like the same thing, and they are not the same thing. Ji-hyun. What? I'll see you Thursday. I know, Ji-hyun said, with the voice of someone who had made peace with something they deeply resented making peace with. That's exactly the problem. Zara hung up. She stood in her kitchen for 1 full minute. Then she called Grandma Dot. 1 ring. A single ring. And then her grandmother's voice was already there, already fully present, with the energy of a woman who had been holding the phone ready. Baby. She called you. She had Sungjin call me. Grandma. Now listen. You knew since Saturday. Friday, actually. Friday. She called Sungjin Thursday night. Sungjin called me Friday morning because he needed advice, and I am the most level-headed person he knows on this continent. You could have told me. You would have worried. I am currently worrying. Yes, but now you have 4 days of worry instead of 6. Very efficient. Down the hall, Diane's bedroom door opened. She appeared in the doorway holding a mug of coffee, wearing her robe, with the expression of a woman who had been awake for a considerable amount of time and had been waiting, with complete patience, for exactly this phone call to reach its inevitable conclusion. She knows, Diane said. It was not a question. She knew Friday, Zara said. Diane nodded. She took a sip of coffee. She did not look surprised. She did not look alarmed. She looked exactly like a woman who had spent the better part of her life in the general vicinity of Dorothy, Washington, and had developed, through sustained exposure, the specific kind of peace that comes from accepting that some forces in this world are simply beyond the scope of human management. Okay, Diane said. Zara stared. Okay. That's it. Just okay. What else would you like to say? I have a list. Will anything on it change the situation? A beat. No, Zara admitted. Then save your energy. Diane walked toward the kitchen. You're going to need it. Before you go any further, drop your location and the time you're watching in the comments right now. Like this video, Share it with someone who has a grandmother who makes international travel decisions on your behalf and considers this an act of love. And subscribe to this channel because Halmoni Park Sunja is about to discover Atlanta. Atlanta is not ready. Nobody is ready. We're going. Since coming home from Seoul 3 months ago, Zara Kim had developed several new habits. She video called Jihyun 3 times a week, sometimes 4. She had learned 8 Korean words, 6 of them correctly, 2 of them with consistent confidence and consistent incorrectness, and every single time she used the wrong ones, Jihyun made the face of someone watching a car move toward a wall in slow motion and unable to stop it. She sent Halmoni voice notes through Sungjin because nobody had successfully set up a direct communication line, a situation which had turned Sungjin into an international postal service he had not applied to run. Halmoni sent back 4-second voice notes that somehow contained entire emotional paragraphs. Zara played them 3 times, each trying to catch everything. She had also become the unofficial translator of all things Korean for Grandma, which was a role she was deeply unqualified for and which Grandma Dot did not acknowledge as a limitation. Say that thing, Halmoni said. Which thing? The one about the soup. Grandma, I don't know which. The thing she said at dinner. About the soup being good. I don't remember the exact. You were right there. There were 40 people talking at the same time. You were sitting next to her. I was sitting next to Jihyun, who was translating 40 people. Zara, Grandma, just say something Korean. That's not how language works. It might be. Life in Seoul had been good. Strange, but good. Something had shifted in Zara that she couldn't fully name. Like a door she hadn't known was closed had been opened, and now the air moved differently. She called her father every Sunday. She always had, but now the calls were different, longer, easier, fuller. He asked about Seoul and she had stories. He asked about Halmoni and she had real answers. She asked about his paperwork, and he was carefully optimistic in the way he always was about the paperwork, which was to say that he sounded like someone managing expectations that had been disappointed before and did not want to be disappointed again. That was the part of her life that still sat heavy. But 3 months after Seoul, on a Tuesday morning with ruined cereal and a phone call from Sungjin, the wait was about to be temporarily overrun by sheer operational chaos. Grandma Dot began preparing within the hour. This was the thing about Dorothy Washington. The woman did not ease into anything. She committed. Fully, immediately, with the comprehensive dedication of someone who had decided that halfway was not a philosophy worth practicing. By 10 in the morning she had called Miss Gloria. By 10:15 she had called Miss Patricia. By 10:30 she had worked through her entire contact list under the category of church ladies, which contained 14 names, and each conversation had lasted between 8 and 12 minutes because Grandma Dot did not deliver news briefly. She's coming Thursday. From Korea? From Korea. Lord. I know. What do you need? Everything. What kind of everything? All of it. Dorothy, be specific. I need the guest room perfect. I need food prepared. I need the neighborhood to know. The neighborhood to know? She's family. Dorothy, she has never been here before. She's still family. The neighborhood should know. I'll call Rhonda. Rhonda already knows. What? She heard from Paulette. Who told Paulette? Silence. Paulette heard from me, Miss Gloria admitted. I called her after you called me. Gloria. I was excited. I called you 11 minutes ago. I'm a fast dialer. By noon, Zara was standing in the guest room, watching her grandmother reorganize it for the second time. It was fine the first time, Zara said. The first time had weaknesses. What weaknesses? Grandma Dot picked up a decorative pillow, examined it, and placed it 6 inches to the left. Energy. That's not a real thing. It is in this house. Grandma. She is coming from the other side of the world. She will be happy with a bed. She prepared a beautiful room for you in Seoul. That was different. How? Zara opened her mouth, then closed it, because the truth was that it was not different. Halmoni had reorganized that guest room 4 times. By Sungjin's count, Grandma Dot was only on 2. Fine, Zara said. Thank you. But only 2 reorganizations. We'll see. The grocery situation began at 1 o'clock. Not 1 grocery store. 3. Grandma Dot had a system. Store 1 for produce, because their produce was fresh, and she had a long-standing professional relationship with the man who stocked the vegetable section. Store 2 for dry goods, because their prices were better and she had coupons. Store 3 for specific items that she had decided only Store 3 carried to an acceptable standard, and this was not a conversation she was willing to have. Zara drove. This was not optional. "We don't need all of this," Zara said, pushing a cart that already contained more food than 3 people could consume in a week. "We don't know what she likes. We know some things. We know she liked the mac and cheese. Correct. And the sweet potato pie. Also correct. Everything else is a mystery." "It's not a mystery, Grandma. She eats Korean food. She's Korean. She has been Korean her entire life." Grandma Dot placed 4 sweet potatoes in the cart. "Then she'll have options." At Store 2, they encountered Miss Patricia, who had somehow arrived at the same grocery store at the same time, which was either coincidence or a level of coordination that suggested the church ladies operated on a communication network that the government did not have access to. "I heard she's coming Thursday," Miss Patricia said. "She's coming Thursday," Grandma Dot confirmed. "Is she nice?" "She is exactly like me." Miss Patricia looked at Grandma Dot for a moment. "God help us," she said. Back at the house, the church ladies had begun arriving. Not by invitation. Through instinct. The way cats appear when someone opens a can in another room. Not summoned, not expected, simply present because the situation required them. Miss Gloria was already at the kitchen table. A woman named Rhonda, who Zara vaguely recognized from 3 Easters ago, was in the living room adjusting a picture frame. 2 women, Zara did not know at all, were standing in the hallway with the comfortable authority of people who have been in this house many times before, which, for all Zara knew, they had. "Who are they?" Zara whispered to Diane. Diane was sitting in the living room, eating an apple with complete composure. "Church," Diane said. "Which church?" "Does it matter? I don't know their names." "You'll learn them. There are 2 of them I have never seen before. New members, probably." Diane took another bite of apple. "Your grandmother has range." By evening, the guest room was on its 3rd configuration. Zara counted. She was keeping track now. "This is the last one," she announced from the doorway. "This is the best one," Grandma Dot said, standing back to assess. "You said that about the second one." "The second one had undiscovered weaknesses." "What does that mean?" "It means I didn't see them until later." Zara looked at Diane. Diane ate her apple. "I'm not helping," Diane said before Zara could ask. "You never help. I drive and I pay taxes. That's my contribution." 7,000 miles away, in Seoul, Halmoni Park Sunja was also preparing. This was the part that Atlanta did not know about. Atlanta was busy reorganizing guest rooms and calling church ladies and buying sweet potatoes in bulk. Atlanta did not know that on the other side of the world, with 4 days' notice and 0 hesitation, another grandmother was conducting her own operations. The research had begun on Friday. Ji-hyun discovered the research on Saturday morning when she walked into the kitchen and found Halmoni sitting at the table with a stack of printed papers, a notepad, and the reading glasses she wore when something required serious attention. "What is this?" Ji-hyun asked. "Research." Ji-hyun sat down. She looked at the top sheet. She looked at the second sheet. She looked at the third sheet and then set it face down on the table because it was raising questions she was not prepared to start the morning with. "Halmoni." "Yes." "You printed articles about Atlanta weather." "Yes." "You printed articles about Atlanta food." "Yes." "You printed." Ji-hyun picked up the face-down sheet. "You printed an article about American wildlife. For awareness." "Halmoni, Atlanta is a city." "I know it's a city. Major city. Population of 6 million in the greater area. It has an international airport, a Coca-Cola museum, a very famous aquarium." "I know. Then why?" Ji-hyun said carefully, "Do you have a printed question written on your notepad about bears?" Halmoni did not look up from her paper. "I watched a documentary." "About what?" "America." "Which part of America?" "The nature part." Ji-hyun put the notepad down. She looked at the ceiling. She looked at Sung-jin, who had appeared in the kitchen doorway, assessed the situation in approximately 1.5 seconds, and was now preparing to leave. "Samchin, I don't see anything," Sung-jin said. "There are printed articles about bears." "I don't see any bears." Sung-jin, "I'm going to the other room," Sung-jin said, and went to the other room. Ji-hyun turned back to Halmoni. There are no bears in Atlanta, she said. Probably not. Not probably. Definitely not. They said the suburbs. Ji-hyun. We are not going to the suburbs, Ji-hyun said. We are going to Zara's apartment. In the city, where there are no bears. There have never been bears. There will not be bears. Halmoni nodded. She picked up her pen. She crossed out the bear question. She turned to the next page of the notepad. Ji-hyun leaned over to read it. There was a question about alligators. Halmoni, Ji-hyun said, with the voice of someone selecting their battles very carefully at 8 in the morning. I need you to know that I love you very much. Yes. And I will translate anything you need me to translate. Yes. In Atlanta. Yes. To which I have now agreed to come. Yes. I want to be clear that I did not agree. You're coming. I'm coming. Ji-hyun sat back in her chair. There are no alligators in Atlanta. Halmoni crossed out the alligator question. She turned to the next page. She had questions about the food. These were more reasonable. 8 questions about American food, organized by category, written in a neat column. What was typically served at an American dinner? What spices were commonly used? Whether there was rice? Whether there was always this much rice? Whether the sweet potato was used frequently or only occasionally? Whether it was always in the dessert or also in the main dish? Ji-hyun read through all of them. These are normal, she said. Thank you. These I can answer. Good. Halmoni. Yes. Why didn't you tell Zara you were coming? Halmoni looked at her research papers. She straightened them against the table. She picked up her tea. She would have worried, she said. Ji-hyun stared at her. Grandma Dot said the exact same thing. Ji-hyun said slowly. Halmoni looked up. Did she? Word for word. A very small pause. Good, Halmoni said, and returned to her research. Ji-hyun sat at the table for a moment longer. Then she went to find Sung-jin. He was in the living room pretending to read something. Sung-jin. I'm reading. Grandma Dot and Halmoni said the exact same sentence about not telling Zara. That's interesting. It should concern you. Everything concerns me. I have chosen to experience that concern quietly. That's not healthy. It's survivable. Which is all I'm going for at this point. The packing took most of Sunday. Ji-hyun watched from the doorway of Halmoni's room as suitcase number 1 was filled with the organized precision of a woman who had packed for journeys before and had a system. Everything folded. Everything placed with intention. The clothes, the shoes, the practical items. Then suitcase number 2 began. What is in suitcase 2? Ji-hyun asked. Things. What kinds of things? Halmoni placed a carefully wrapped bundle in the center. A second set of dishes. Ji-hyun said flatly, watching this happen. Good dishes. You are bringing good dishes to America. For the table. Dorothy Washington has dishes. She has her dishes. Ji-hyun looked at the ceiling. Halmoni, you cannot bring your dishes to someone else's house. I'm not bringing them to the house. I'm bringing them on the trip. They will be with me. That is the same thing. It is not. It is literally. Ji-hyun. Yes. The dishes are coming. Ji-hyun looked at Sung-jin. Sung-jin made the face he made when something was beyond his power to address, and he was mentally placing it in the category of things he had decided not to fight. The rest of suitcase 2 contained tea, 6 months' worth, which was more tea than a 3-person household could consume in 6 months unless they started drinking it at a pace that would concern a nutritionist. 3 pairs of the same shoes. What appeared to be enough medication to supply a small clinic. A small ceramic container wrapped in cloth. And then placed in the very center of the second suitcase, wrapped in a soft piece of fabric and secured with care, a framed photograph. Ji-hyun watched Halmoni place it. She looked at the shape of it through the fabric. She did not ask what it was. Something she had learned to receive without asking. The questions would answer themselves eventually, or they wouldn't, and either way she would have been wiser not to push. She went back to her room to pack her own bag, which took 20 minutes and contained normal quantities of normal items, and she did this with the quiet satisfaction of a person who had not lost their mind. Thursday arrived the way Thursdays always do when you've been dreading them, immediately, without warning, and slightly earlier than expected. The drive to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport was quiet. Zara drove. Grandma Dot sat in the passenger seat in her best church hat. Not a small hat, a significant hat, a hat that communicated intent. It was navy blue, with a brim wide enough to generate its own weather system, and she wore it with the composure of a woman who understood that first impressions required appropriate headwear. Diane sat in the back, eating crackers. "You're wearing the hat," Zara said. "I am wearing a hat, yes. The church hat. It is a hat suitable for receiving guests. We're going to an airport. Important people arrive at airports." Zara glanced at her mother in the rearview mirror. Diane ate a cracker. "Mom, don't involve me," Diane said. "You're in the car. Physically, yes. Emotionally, I am somewhere else entirely." Arrivals at Hartsfield-Jackson were already moving when they got there. Families waiting. People holding signs. The general organized chaos of an international arrivals hall, which operated on the particular energy of a place where significant things were always happening and everyone present was in the middle of one of them. Grandma Dot positioned herself at the front of the waiting area with the confidence of someone who had arrived first and intended to stay first. She was holding a handwritten sign. Zara had not known about the sign. "When did you make that?" "Last night. It says their names. In Korean. I had Ji-hyun text me how to write them." "You called Ji-hyun. She was very helpful. She told me she was having a normal evening." She was. She also helped me with my sign." Zara stared at the sign. The Korean characters were surprisingly accurate. The English below them read Park Family, Welcome to Atlanta. There were hand-drawn flowers at the corners. The flowers were good, better than they had any right to be. "I took a class," Grandma said, before Zara could ask about the flowers. "What class?" "At the community center. Wednesday evenings. It was supposed to be watercolor, but I pivoted." "You pivoted to Korean character writing." It seemed relevant. Diane appeared beside them holding the remaining crackers. She looked at the sign. She looked at Zara. She ate a cracker. "I'm not surprised," Diane said. "How?" Zara said. "How are you never surprised?" "Practice." 40 minutes later, the flight from Seoul appeared on the arrivals board as landed. People around them stirred. Zara felt the particular knot in her stomach that she always felt when something significant was about to happen. Not dread, not exactly excitement, but the feeling of standing at the edge of something you can feel but can't quite see yet. Grandma Dot raised the sign. She held it with both hands. She looked at the doors. She was completely still, which was unusual enough that Zara noticed, and noticed that her grandmother, who was never still, who moved through spaces like weather moves through a field, was holding her breath a little. "Grandma, you're nervous." "I am not nervous." "Your sign hand is shaking. The air conditioning is very strong in here. It's Atlanta, it's barely on." "I'm cold-natured." "You're nervous." "Zara Kim." The doors opened. Passengers began appearing. Families recognized each other. Children ran. Adults moved with a particular exhaustion of people who had been in a compressed metal cylinder for 14 hours and had survived. Then Ji-hyun appeared. She was moving at the pace of someone who had been awake too long and was running on coffee and professional obligation. She had her bag over one shoulder and her phone in her hand, and she was already scanning the crowd. She spotted Zara, and her face did the thing it did sometimes, quick and unguarded, before composing itself. Then Sung-jin, looking exactly like a man who had managed a long international flight beside someone who had opinions about the journey from beginning to end. And then, Halmoni. Park Soon-ja walked through those arrivals, doors like a woman entering a space she had already decided belonged to her. She was in her best travel outfit. Her posture was perfect. Her expression was composed. Her eyes moved across the arrivals hall with the efficiency of someone collecting data in real time and processing it immediately. She saw Grandma Dot's sign first. She stopped, read it, looked at the Korean characters, then looked at Grandma Dot. Something moved across her face. Something small and fast and real. Then it was composed again. Grandma Dot lowered the sign slightly. Their eyes met across the arrivals hall. And for a moment nobody moved. Not Ji-hyun, not Sung-jin, not Zara, not the people flowing around them. Just two women looking at each other from across a room, each one recognizing in the other something that defied easy translation. Then Zara stepped forward. "Halmoni!" The moment broke into warmth. Halmoni's arms came out. The hug happened before anything else. Long, unhurried, the same hug as the one at the Seoul gate, the kind that was making up for something without saying so. Ji-hyun walked directly into Zara's side hug with the energy of someone who had been surviving on willpower for 14 hours. I need food, Ji-hyun said into Zara's shoulder. We'll eat soon. American food. Yes. Large portions. Also yes. I need to sit somewhere that is not a seat on a plane. The car is right outside. The car, Ji-hyun said with genuine emotion. Sounds wonderful. Sung-jin shook hands with Diane, hugged Zara briefly, and then stood with the look of a man taking stock of his survival odds for the next several days. How was the flight? Zara asked him. Long, he said. Was she okay? He looked at Halmoni, then looked at Zara. She reviewed the Atlanta research materials for 4 hours, he said. Then she slept for 3. Then she woke up and reviewed them again. Was she worried? She was prepared, he said. There is a difference. Meanwhile, Grandma Dot was approaching Halmoni with the sign still in her hand and the church hat fully operational. Halmoni saw the hat. The hat required a moment. It was a significant hat. The brim alone demanded acknowledgement. It sat on Grandma Dot's head with the authority of architecture. Halmoni looked at it, then at Grandma Dot. Welcome, Grandma Dot said warmly, spreading her arms wide in a gesture that encompassed the arrivals hall, the airport, Atlanta, possibly Georgia itself. To my house, Ji-hyun translated, already weary. Halmoni looked at the airport around her. The noise, the movement, the 6 lanes of traffic visible through the glass doors, the Atlanta summer heat pressing against the windows. She said something. She says she is happy to be here, Ji-hyun translated. That's all she said? Zara asked quietly. Ji-hyun paused. She said it in a tone, Ji-hyun said. Outside, Atlanta Summer met Halmoni Park Soonja at the exit doors. This was significant. Atlanta Summer was not Seoul Summer. Seoul Summer had opinions about temperature and expressed them clearly. Atlanta Summer was different. Atlanta Summer was physical, immediate, personal. It didn't ease you in. It arrived all at once, the way something arrives when it has been waiting. Halmoni stepped through the doors. The heat enveloped her. She stopped. She stood very still for a moment. Then she said one word in Korean. What did she say? Zara asked. Ji-hyun, who had put on sunglasses. She said a word I won't translate directly. The meaning is approximately, this is a considerable amount of heat. Is that the polite version? That is the diplomatic version, yes. What's the actual version? You don't want to know. Sung-jin was already moving toward the car with the energy of a man who had decided that efficiency was his only available defense mechanism. Grandma Dot was not moving particularly fast. She was moving with the pace of someone who owned the terrain and was not in a hurry on their own property. She walked beside Halmoni. She said something to Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun translated. She says Atlanta summers take some getting used to. Halmoni responded. She says she grew up in Korea. She knows about getting used to things. Grandma Dot looked at Halmoni, then laughed. A real one. She's right, she said. She's absolutely right. The drive from the airport to Grandma Dot's neighborhood took 40 minutes. 40 minutes during which Halmoni observed Atlanta with a quiet, systematic attention she brought to all new information. The buildings, the scale of the roads, the billboards, the number of cars, the green of the trees, the flatness of certain stretches of road, and then the sudden hills. The neighborhoods, shifting in character block by block. The way the city moved, its rhythms, its particular personality, entirely different from Seoul and yet instantly legible as a place that knew exactly what it was. She did not comment on most of it. Some she did. Ji-hyun translated, from the back seat, without being asked, because after 26 years, she had learned that Halmoni's observations, shared or unshared, were always going to come out eventually. She says the roads are very wide. American roads, Grandma Dot confirmed, from the front passenger seat. She says everything is very far apart. American design philosophy, Zara said. Halmoni said something else. Ji-hyun paused. What? Zara asked. She says, Ji-hyun said carefully, that she can understand why a car is necessary. Sung-jin made a sound that was almost a laugh. She has been telling me to get a better car for 6 years, he said. She's been telling everyone to get better cars, Ji-hyun said. She has opinions about public transit. She has opinions about everything. This is not new information. Grandma Dot turned around in her seat to look at Halmoni. Tell her she's right. You need a car here. I keep telling Zara she needs a better one. Ji-hyun translated. Halmoni looked at Zara in the rearview mirror. She said something. She agrees with Dorothy, Ji-hyun translated. Great, Zara said. My two grandmothers agree that my car is insufficient. My life is complete. What kind of car? Grandma Dot asked. Not this conversation, Zara said. We are not having this conversation. We're just asking. We're not asking. This is an ambush. There are two of you and one of me, and this is an ambush. Halmoni said something. Ji-hyun with effort. She says it's not an ambush. It's concern. That's what an ambush looks like from the inside, Zara said. Grandma Dot pointed at Halmoni. Smart. Halmoni looked at Grandma Dot. The corner of her mouth. That small movement. They were 10 minutes from the neighborhood. Nobody knew what was waiting. Except everybody in the neighborhood knew exactly what was waiting because the neighborhood had been briefed. The briefing had occurred across 4 phone calls, 2 Sunday dinners, 1 Wednesday prayer group, and a Saturday morning conversation at the community mailboxes that had spread rapidly because community mailboxes were, in Grandma Dot's neighborhood, a primary communication infrastructure. Everyone knew Halmoni was coming. Everyone was ready, which became apparent the moment the car turned onto the street. Miss Gloria was in her front garden, not working in it, standing near the front, hands at her sides, looking toward the road. Miss Patricia was on her front steps with a glass of lemonade, positioned with the energy of someone who had calculated the sight line from her porch to the street and selected this exact location deliberately. 2 women Zara didn't recognize were at the corner. Why are people standing outside? Halmoni asked. The question arrived through Ji-hyun before Zara could prevent it. Grandma Dot looked out the window. They're being neighborly, she said pleasantly. Halmoni observed the street. In Seoul, she said. We call this something else. Ji-hyun chose not to translate this one. Sung-jin was looking out the other window. There are a lot of people outside, he said. It's a nice day, Grandma Dot said. It is 100 degrees, Sung-jin said. People enjoy the warmth. Samchin, Ji-hyun said to him quietly, just accept it. The car stopped. Doors opened. Bags came out. And before Zara had fully closed the trunk, the neighborhood was already moving. Miss Gloria appeared at the gate. You must be Halmoni, she said, reaching through Ji-hyun's immediate proximity, which Ji-hyun translated with the professional speed of someone who had been doing this long enough that her reflexes were now automatic. Halmoni bowed. Miss Gloria bowed back, slightly uncertainly, which was a gesture of genuine respect that she was improvising in real time. Miss Patricia came down her steps. Rhonda appeared from the direction of the community garden. Gerald, a large man with a generous smile who Zara had seen twice before at neighborhood cookouts, materialized from somewhere with the comfortable authority of a person who belonged everywhere. And Grandma Dot moved through all of it like a conductor. This is Halmoni. She came from Seoul. She is Zara's other grandmother. She makes the best soup I have ever tasted in my life, and I do not say that about people lightly. Ji-hyun translated, rapidly, then back, then forward. She was already in simultaneous translation mode, which meant she was running 2 tracks in her head at once, and she had been awake for 20 hours, and this was her life now. Halmoni received each introduction with a bow. Small, dignified, composed. The bowing spread. This was the thing nobody had anticipated. The bowing spread through the neighborhood like a wave. Miss Gloria bowed back. Miss Patricia attempted a bow. Rhonda bowed, and then looked at Rhonda's husband who had appeared beside her, and he bowed too. Gerald bowed with the full commitment of a man who had decided that if bowing was what the situation required, he was going to bow properly. Within 5 minutes, Grandma Dot's block had developed a bowing practice. Zara watched this happen. Ji-hyun, I see it. The whole street is bowing. I see it. Is this normal? Nothing about today is normal. Should someone stop it? Ji-hyun looked at the street, then at Halmoni, who was watching the bowing spread with an expression that was composed but contained something that looked very much like it might become amusement if she let it. I don't think so, Ji-hyun said. Zara counted 14 introductions in 38 minutes. She was keeping count now. She had done this before. In Seoul at the market. The number was always higher than expected. The number was always exactly as many as the grandmother in question felt were necessary, which was to say all of them. Somewhere in the middle of introduction number 9, Sung-jin went to check on the luggage in the car. He came back 47 minutes later. "Where did you go?" Zara asked. "To the car." "For 47 minutes. I met Gerald." "Who is Gerald?" "He knows a very good hardware store." "We don't need a hardware store." "He also knows the best restaurant in this neighborhood." Sung-jin. "He has a theory about I-285 traffic that I found genuinely compelling." "You've been in Atlanta for 2 hours. Gerald is a very interesting person," Sung-jin said, with a faintly dazed expression of someone who had not expected to make a friend today and had made one anyway. "He invited me to a cookout on Saturday." "You'll be gone Saturday." "I told him that." "What did he say?" "He said that's a shame, but we should stay in touch." Zara stared at him. "You exchanged numbers with a man you met in the street 47 minutes ago." "He's a good person." "How do you know?" "I have good instincts," Sung-jin said, and went to take the luggage inside with the composure of a man who was comfortable with exactly what had just happened. "Drop your location and time in the comments right now, because you need to let us know you're here for all of this. Like this video. Share it with your most chaotic family group chat. Subscribe because we are only getting started and Halmoni Park Sunja has not yet entered Grandma Dot's kitchen. The kitchen is coming. And when it comes, nothing will ever be the same. Inside, Grandma Dot's house received them with the particular energy of a space that had been prepared by a woman who took preparation seriously. Every surface clean, every cushion positioned. The guest room, now in its third and final configuration, waiting with fresh flowers and approximately 8 pillows. Halmoni walked in. She stopped in the doorway of the living room. She looked at the photographs on the mantel. Zara various ages, Diana various ages, Grandma Dot in what appeared to be every decade since 1970, always in a hat, always with perfect posture. She walked slowly to the mantel. She looked at each photograph. Nobody said anything. Then she pointed at one. Zara, maybe 4 years old, wearing a hat almost as large as Grandma Dot's, squinting into the sun with an expression of total offended dignity. She says, Ji-hyun translated softly, that she recognizes that expression. Grandma Dot leaned over to look. She wore that face for most of 1999, Grandma Dot said. Ji-hyun translated. Halmoni looked at the photo a moment longer. Then she said something quiet. She says, Ji-hyun said, that is exactly the face her father made when someone did something he hadn't approved of. The room was still for a moment. Then Grandma Dot said, she disapproved of a son. Ji-hyun translated. Halmoni laughed. The room exhaled. And the hat went down, and the bags came inside, and the house filled with the noise of people settling into a space, and the kitchen waited, which was where everything real was going to happen. Because Grandma Dot's kitchen was Grandma Dot's territory, and they had not yet reached the kitchen. That was coming. That was very much coming. And the moment it started, the cooking competition that had begun in Seoul, on Korean territory with Korean rules, was going to move to Atlanta, where everything was different, and where the woman who had been a gracious guest in someone else's kitchen was now, at last, at home. Grandma Dot's kitchen had rules. Not written rules. Not posted anywhere. Not explained to anyone who entered. But rules that existed in the space the same way gravity existed. Invisibly, completely, and with zero tolerance for disagreement. The left burner was hers. The counter by the window was hers. The wooden spoon on the second hook from the left had been hers for 11 years, and was not available for general use under any circumstances. The spice rack followed a system that was not alphabetical, not organized by cuisine, and not explainable to anyone who had not watched it develop across 4 decades, but which worked perfectly for the one person whose system it was. Everyone who had ever cooked in this kitchen understood these things. Halmoni didn't know about them yet. She walked into the kitchen with the composed attention she brought to every new space, systematic, unhurried, gathering information. Her eyes moved across the counter. The pots hanging on the wall rack, 14 of them, arranged by size with the confidence of arrangement that came from someone who had stopped questioning their own choices years ago. The spice rack, the knife block, the ceramic canisters lined up on the secondary counter, the smaller pots on the windowsill above the sink. She stopped at the pot rack. She looked at it, She looked at it for a moment longer than a casual glance. Then she looked at Grandma Dot. She says you have a lot of pots. Ji-hyun translated from a position near the doorway she had specifically selected because it gave her the clearest path to the hallway. I do, Grandma said. Halmoni said something else. Ji-hyun paused. A small pause, but visible. She says the arrangement is interesting. The kitchen went quiet. Miss Gloria, who was already at the table, because Miss Gloria was always already at the table before anyone else arrived and nobody had ever successfully explained how, put down her coffee cup. Rhonda, who had appeared within 20 minutes of their return from the airport with a container of something she had just happened to have made, looked at Miss Gloria. Miss Gloria looked at Rhonda. Both of them looked at Grandma Dot. Grandma Dot looked at the pot rack, then looked at Halmoni, then looked at the pot rack again with the expression of a woman picking up a fragile object and deciding whether it was valuable or dangerous. Interesting, she repeated, slowly, the word sitting in her mouth like something she was tasting. That's the word she used, Ji-hyun confirmed, in the careful voice of someone who has delivered news and is now creating distance between herself and its consequences. A beat. Tell her, Grandma said, measuring every syllable. That interesting is certainly one word for it. Ji-hyun translated. Halmoni looked at the pot rack one more time, then at Grandma Dot, and then the corner of her mouth. That small, specific movement that showed up whenever she was pleased about something she had decided not to announce. Grandma Dot saw it. Her eyes narrowed, not in anger, in recognition. The look of someone who had just identified exactly what kind of game was being played and by whom. Oh, she said quietly. She thinks she's funny. She is a little funny, Ji-hyun said. She is standing in my kitchen. That doesn't affect the funniness. Ji-hyun, I'm just being precise. You're being unhelpful. I'm being both. Miss Gloria had both hands flat on the table now. Rhonda was holding her container with both hands as though she needed something to grip. The kitchen held its breath. Grandma Dot looked at Halmoni. Halmoni looked back. Neither moved. Two women. One kitchen. An invisible line drawn somewhere in the middle of the linoleum floor that both of them could see, and neither of them was going to be the first to mention. Then Grandma Dot turned back to the stove and started cooking. Because her response to someone having opinions about her kitchen was to demonstrate, through results, that her kitchen was exactly as it should be. She moved through the space with the ease of a woman who knew where everything was before she reached for it. Left burner. Wooden spoon from the second hook. Spices from the rack in an order that followed an internal logic nobody else could read and didn't need to. Halmoni watched. Closely. She stood a few feet back with her hands clasped, and she watched the way she watched everything. Patient, quiet, missing absolutely nothing. For minutes passed. Then she asked a question. Ji-hyun translated. She wants to know why you add that ingredient at that stage instead of later. Grandma Dot stopped stirring. The spoon went still over the pot. She turned around. Slowly. She wants to know my technique. That's the question, yes. My technique. Correct. She walked into my kitchen, looked at my pots, used the word interesting, and now she wants to know my technique. That does appear to be the sequence of events. In my kitchen. Still yes. Grandma Dot looked at Halmoni with the expression of a woman calculating several things at once. Tell her, she said. It's a family secret. Ji-hyun translated. Halmoni's response came back immediately. No pause. No hesitation. Ji-hyun's face did something. A small, complicated something. What? Zara said. Ji-hyun looked at Grandma Dot, then at Zara, then back at Grandma Dot. She says, Ji-hyun said carefully, that she is family. The kitchen went completely silent. Then Miss Gloria stood up, fully, both hands on the table, pushing herself to standing, like someone responding to something that required them to be vertical. Rhonda put her container down. The two women at the back of the kitchen, whose names Zara still hadn't fully caught both, turned to look at each other. Sung-jin, who had appeared in the doorway holding a glass of water, made no movement at all, as if being perfectly still would allow him to absorb this moment without becoming part of it. Grandma Dot looked at Halmoni. Halmoni looked back. The corner of her mouth had graduated from a hint to something more visible. Not a smile. Something more controlled than a smile, but heading in that direction. Grandma Dot pointed her wooden spoon. She's right, she said, and told her. The full technique. Not a summary. The real version. The one that had come from her mother, who had gotten it from her mother, which meant it had traveled generations before it reached this kitchen and this pot and this Tuesday afternoon. When to add it? Why that stage and not the next? What it did to the texture. What it did to the flavor. How it had taken 3 years of cooking it wrong before it started tasting right. Halmoni listened to every word of Ji-hyun's translation without moving. At the end she nodded once. The nod of someone filing something away in a place where it would be kept properly. Dorothy Washington, Miss Gloria said from the table, in the voice of a woman who had arrived at the end of something, I have known you for 22 years. I know, Gloria. 22 years of Sunday dinners. I know. Of holidays. I know. Of every time you said, come over, I'm cooking, and I dropped what I was doing and came. Gloria. And you have never. Gloria. Not once. Gloria. In 22 years. She's family, Grandma Dot said simply. Miss Gloria stared at her. I could be family, she said. You haven't been to Korea. I have a passport. It expired. I can renew it. I told you I can renew it. I have said this twice now and I mean it more each time. Rhonda patted Miss Gloria's arm. She means it more, Rhonda confirmed to the room. Sunday morning announced itself the way Sunday mornings in Grandma Dot's house always announced themselves. With purpose, with preparation, and with an understanding that Sunday clothes were not optional and neither was being ready on time. Ji-hyun came downstairs wearing the face of someone who had been raised in a different religious tradition and was managing their expectations in advance. Halmoni came downstairs in her good hanbok. She looked composed. She looked prepared. She was, in all visible ways, ready. She was not ready. Nobody who had not been to this specific church in this specific neighborhood was ready for this specific Sunday. But there was no diplomatic way to say this, so Ji-hyun had done what she could, which was to say, this church is different from other churches. How different? You will see. Grandma Dot was already downstairs. The church hat was on. This was not the airport hat. The airport hat had been significant. This hat was what the airport had aspired to be. It was structured. It was navy with a brim that had been designed by someone who understood that some Sundays require the full range of available communication tools. It sat on Grandma Dot's head with the authority of a declaration. Halmoni looked at the hat. She looked at it for a full 2 seconds. Ji-hyun, she said. Yes. The hat. Yes. It is very large. It is a church hat. What does that mean? It means she is going to church, and this is what goes with it. Is the size intentional? The size, Ji-hyun said carefully, is entirely intentional. Halmoni considered this. I see, she said. She did not yet see. But that was about to change. The parking lot of Grandma Dot's church was full before they arrived. This was the first sign. The sound coming from inside was the second. Even from the parking lot, even before anyone opened a car door, the choir warm-up was not a background noise. It was a presence. It filled the air and asked nothing about whether you were ready for it. Halmoni heard it. She stopped walking. She stood in the parking lot and listened. That's the warm-up, Zara said. The warm-up, Halmoni repeated. Before the service starts. A pause during which the choir hit a chord that briefly reorganized the air around them. How many people are in the choir? Halmoni asked. 47, Ji-hyun said. Another pause. Then, Halmoni walked forward, because she had not come this far in life to be stopped by a warm-up. Inside was everything. Every seat, every pew filled, people standing at the sides, an energy that had been building since before any of them arrived, the way certain energies build on their own schedule and don't wait for witnesses. The choir was in blue robes. 47 of them, exactly as advertised. Halmoni counted. She did it quickly and quietly in the way she counted things. Not obviously, not making a production, just noting. They found their seats. Grandma Dot on the aisle, where she had always sat, where her presence was registered by everyone nearby as naturally as weather is registered. Halmoni beside her. Ji-hyun beside Halmoni, already straightening in her seat with the posture of someone preparing to do sustained professional work. Sung-jin sat at the end and looked at everything with the careful expression of a man taking inventory of a situation before deciding how to feel about it. The service began. And Ji-hyun began translating. She whispered into Halmoni's ear in a continuous stream. The scripture, the prayer, the announcements, and then the thing she had known was coming and had been bracing for since the parking lot, the call and response. The pastor said something. The congregation responded, loudly, fully, with the unhesitating energy of 100 people who knew exactly what they were responding to and meant every syllable of it. Halmoni went very still. Ji-hyun whispering, "It's a response. When the pastor says something true, people respond. All at once. All at once. Together. That's the point. Without being told to. They know the moment." Halmoni looked at the congregation, at 100 people who had known this room, this rhythm, this particular language of response, for years and decades, who moved through it the way you move through something you have done long enough that it has become part of your body's knowledge. Then the choir stood and sang, not in the way choirs sing when they are performing, in the way choirs sing when they are participating in something that the music is part of and not separate from. The sound moved through the room and didn't stop at the walls. It went through them. Halmoni's hands, which had been clasped in her lap, went still. Ji-hyun looked at her sideways. She wasn't translating for a moment. She was watching Halmoni's face, which had let go of its composure slightly. Not much, just the fraction that showed up when something arrived before she could arrange a response to it. Then Halmoni said quietly, "What is a large sundae?" Ji-hyun looked at her. "I told you this was a medium sundae," Ji-hyun said. "Yes. You want to know what a large one is?" "Yes." Ji-hyun thought about it honestly. "Easter," she said, "or a homecoming, or when the pastor comes back after being away for a long time." She paused. "Or sometimes when something happens that needs to be felt together, and this is where people come to feel it." Halmoni looked at the choir. "And it is louder than this." "Considerably." A pause. "I see," Halmoni said. Then the pastor said something, and the congregation responded again. And this time Grandma Dot was fully in it. Hands raised, eyes bright, calling back with the specific energy of someone in their truest element, the version of herself that only existed here, that this room called forward and nowhere else did quite the same way. Halmoni turned to look at her. She watched Grandma Dot the way she had watched the pot rack and the technique and the packing and everything else. Gathering, storing, deciding what it meant. Ji-hyun watched Halmoni watching. She thought, this is it. This is the piece that was missing. This is the context that makes the rest of it legible. The pastor paused in his sermon and looked toward the back of the room. "We have some family visiting with us today," he said, warmly and simply. "Some family who traveled a long way." The congregation turned, not all at once, in waves, 100 faces, open and warm, looking at them with a particular generosity of a community that understood, collectively, what journeys cost and what they were worth. Halmoni received this. She sat straight. She bowed her head slightly, small and deliberate. The congregation responded to the bow with the warmth of people receiving a language they hadn't expected, and were glad to find they understood. Sung-jin, who had been sitting at the end of the pew taking everything in, leaned to Ji-hyun. "Is this?" he started, very quietly. "Yes," Ji-hyun said. "Does this happen every medium Sunday?" "Yes." "And large Sunday is?" "Don't ask right now," Ji-hyun said. "Just be here." He was quiet. Then, "Okay." After, in the parking lot, with the church ladies surrounding them, and 3 separate conversations happening simultaneously, and someone's grandchild running between adult legs, and the particular open-air warmth of a Sunday after service. Halmoni said something quietly to Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun turned to Zara. "She says she understands your grandmother better now." Zara looked at Grandma Dot across the crowd. Still talking, still laughing, had at full power, the center of her world and completely comfortable there. "What does she mean?" Zara asked. Ji-hyun watched Grandma Dot for a moment. "She says," Ji-hyun said slowly, "this is where she gets it from." Zara looked at Halmoni. Halmoni was also watching Grandma Dot, with an expression that was not soft exactly. She was not a soft expression person, but that had opened somehow, like a door that had been closed, and was now standing ajar letting air through. Grandma Dot caught the moment from across the crowd. Not the words, but the gesture, Ji-hyun pointing, Halmoni nodding. She walked over. "What did she say?" Ji-hyun told her. Grandma Dot was quiet for exactly half a second. Then she pointed at Halmoni. "She's right," she said. Halmoni looked at her. Grandma Dot looked back. Something passed between them in the parking lot, sunshine that didn't need a translator and didn't get one and was better for it. Then Miss Patricia appeared with a container of food she had produced from somewhere on her person. "Who's hungry?" she said. And the moment broke into movement, into voices, into the ordinary beautiful chaos of a Sunday, and they all walked to the cars talking, and Zara walked between her two grandmothers, and the Atlanta sun was too hot, and the noise was too much, and it was completely, entirely exactly right. Grandma Dot's dining room table had been extended to its maximum capacity, which was a length that Zara had not seen deployed since Thanksgiving 2019, and every inch of it was occupied. Fried chicken, collard greens, mac and cheese in a casserole dish that was large enough to qualify as furniture, cornbread, 2 pans of it, made that morning, black-eyed peas, candied yams, so sweet the smell alone arrived at you before the plate did, sweet potato pie, 2 of them, side by side on the counter like they were waiting for something. The church ladies had stayed. Again, this required no explanation and received none. They were simply present, which was their natural state in this house on this street, and they had plates and opinions, and the focused attention of people who had been waiting all week for this specific meal to happen. Halmoni sat at the table and looked at what was in front of her. Then she looked at Grandma Dot. "She says," Jihyun translated, and Zara could hear her already trying not to smile, "that this is a lot of food." "It's dinner," Grandma Dot said. "A beat." Jihyun covered her mouth. "What?" Grandma Dot said. "Nothing," Jihyun said. "It's just in Seoul." When Zara said that Halmoni's table was incredible, Halmoni said it's just dinner. "And now," Grandma Dot looked at Halmoni. Halmoni looked back with the expression of a woman who had said, "It's just dinner," in Seoul and knew exactly what she had said. "She called you a liar," Jihyun said, to Grandma Dot, absolutely unable to stop herself now. "In Seoul, about the food. She said, 'Your grandmother is a liar.'" Affectionately, Grandma Dot turned to Zara. Zara looked at the ceiling. "I said it with love," Zara said. "She called me a liar. It was a compliment." "It was a what?" "It meant the food was too good to be casual. It's the highest praise." A pause. "That's a good answer," Grandma Dot said. She turned back to Halmoni. "Tell her I accept the compliment," she said. Jihyun translated. Halmoni's response came back. "She says good," Jihyun said. "She says she meant it. Tell her I know. She says she knows you know. Tell her." "Dorothy," Diane said from the end of the table, without looking up from her plate. "Just eat." Silence. Then everyone picked up their forks. The tasting began. This was the thing that had developed over the last several days into an unspoken ritual. Halmoni's first bite of anything had an audience. Not by design. By gravity. People simply oriented toward it. She picked up a piece of chicken. Bit into it. Chewed. Set it down. Picked it up again. "She likes it," Jihyun said, before anyone asked. "How do you know already?" Miss Patricia said. She picked it up again. First bite made her want the second. That's the highest rating she gives. She doesn't say something is good. She just goes back for more. "More meaningful than a compliment," Rhonda said. "Much more," Jihyun confirmed. "What about the greens?" "She hasn't tried them yet. Tell her to try the greens." "I am not telling her." Halmoni reached for the collard greens. Everyone watched. She took some. Tried them. Nodded once, which was more visible than her chicken nod, and therefore approximately twice as meaningful. "The greens got a nod," Miss Gloria announced to the table in general. "That's big," Rhonda said. "That's very big," Miss Gloria confirmed. "How big?" someone at the far end asked. "Nod big," Miss Gloria said. "Not just the fork thing. The actual nod. Lord." "I know." Then Halmoni reached for the mac and cheese. The table went quiet. Not completely quiet, but the quieter quiet of people who had turned most of their attention in one direction. She served herself. She took a bite. She went still. She stayed still for a moment that was slightly longer than any of her previous still moments. Then she looked at Grandma Dot across the table. Grandma Dot looked back. "She says," Jihyun said, and Zara could hear something in her voice that was trying very hard to be professional and mostly succeeding. "She understands why you try to bring it to Korea." The table lost itself completely. Miss Gloria's laugh started it. The big one she tried to suppress and couldn't. And then Miss Patricia. And then Rhonda knocked her elbow into the person beside her. And Sung Jin at the far end of the table set his chopsticks down because he needed both hands free for this level of reaction. And even Diane, who had been operating in her usual state of elegant emotional distance, had to look away for a moment. Grandma Dot sat back in her chair, deeply, completely, thoroughly satisfied. "She gets it," she said. "She gets it," Ji-hyun confirmed. "She has always gotten it. She was just waiting for the evidence." "That's exactly what she's like about everything," Ji-hyun said. Then came the sweet potato pie. Grandma Dot placed both pies on the table last. No ceremony, no announcement. Just set them down and sat. Halmoni looked at the pies. She looked at them with a particular kind of attention. Not the assessing attention she brought to new things, but the slower, stiller attention of someone who had been somewhere in their memory and had just arrived back. Because she remembered, of course she remembered, the Atlanta airport, Grandma Dot's suitcase, the sweet potatoes in the bag that couldn't cross customs, the brief morning, the moving on. This was what they were supposed to become. She looked at Grandma Dot. Grandma Dot looked back. Neither of them said anything. The table felt this without being told to. "She remembers," Ji-hyun said softly before anyone asked. "Of course she does," Grandma Dot said. Halmoni tried the pie. She was still for a moment that was longer than all the other moments. Then she said 2 words. "The recipe," Ji-hyun translated. "I have 2, Grandma Dot said. Halmoni looked at her steadily. "2. The one I give people. And the real one." The table understood immediately. This was not a complicated message. Everyone present had been cooking for long enough to know that every person who cooked seriously had 2 versions of their best thing. The version that was good, and the version that was real. Halmoni did not ask which one she was getting. She took another piece of pie instead. This was the answer. This was the question, and the answer simultaneously, and everyone at the table knew it. "She's getting the real one," Grandma Dot said. Miss Gloria stood up from the table. Fully, both hands flat on the surface, weight forward, the posture of a woman who had waited long enough. "Dorothy, Gloria, I have been coming to this table since 2002. I know. Every Christmas. I know. Every Easter. Your 4th of July. The time you had people over just because you'd made too much chicken. Gloria. That was a Tuesday, Dorothy. I remember. A random Tuesday. And I came and I ate your chicken. And I said, Dorothy, this is the best chicken I have ever had in my life, and I meant it, and I have meant it every time I have said it for 22 years. Gloria. And you have never. She came from Seoul. Not once what? She came from Seoul, Grandma said calmly. 7,000 miles. She flew 14 hours on a plane. She got off the plane in Atlanta summer and didn't complain once. Then she came to my church and received the whole thing with complete respect. Then she sat at my table and she went back for the chicken. She paused. You live 4 blocks away, Gloria. You have never even rung the doorbell on a regular day. Silence. Miss Gloria opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I could start ringing the doorbell, she said finally. Too late, Grandma Dot said pleasantly. Recipes taken. Halmoni, who had been watching this exchange with the expression of someone watching a tennis match they were enjoying considerably, said something. Ji-hyun translated, and Zara could see her working very hard to keep a straight face. She says she is sorry for the difficulty this has caused. Miss Gloria turned to Halmoni. Halmoni met her eyes with complete composure. The corner of her mouth. She is not sorry, Miss Gloria said, reading this correctly. She is not sorry, Ji-hyun confirmed. I respect that, Miss Gloria said, sitting back down. I don't like it, but I respect it. Evening came down over the house slowly. The church ladies left one by one, and then together, and then there was just the particular quiet of a house after it has held a lot of people and is settling back into itself. The kitchen table. Tea. The 4 of them, Zara, Halmoni, Grandma Dot, Ji-hyun, and the kind of quiet that arrives when everything loud has finished and the real conversation can start. Halmoni asked about J1. She didn't build up to it. She didn't search for a way in. She simply asked, the way she asked everything, directly, without decoration, as if indirectness was a waste of time she had long since stopped allocating. Grandma Dot told it, not as a story built for effect, as the truth, in the order it happened, the way she told things she had thought about long enough that the emotion had become part of the structure rather than sitting on top of it. Jae-won came to America at 22. He was studying engineering. He met Diane in a grocery store parking lot because he had taken the wrong card, and she had found his embarrassment so complete that she laughed, and he laughed too, and that was how it started. They were together 2 years before Zara arrived. His student visa expired during the process of figuring out what came next. The process was expensive. The lawyers were expensive. The timelines kept extending. He worked. He applied. He waited. He applied again. The answer came back wrong, and he went back to Korea with the plan to sort it out from that end. 24 years. 24 years of that plan meeting the reality of what immigration paperwork does to plans. 24 years of Sunday calls, every single one, without a single exception, because Sunday was the day they had agreed on and neither of them had broken the agreement. He calls every Sunday, Grandma Dot said. Ji-hyun translated. Halmoni was quiet. Every Sunday, rain or snow, sick or well, doesn't matter. Halmoni looked at the table. Something was happening in her expression that she wasn't fully managing. He never missed a Sunday, she said. Not once. Halmoni was still for a moment. Then she said something quietly. Ji-hyun's voice came out softer than usual when she translated. She says, he called every Sunday in Korea too. Before he left. Every week without fail. She thought. Ji-hyun stopped. Started again. She thought the habit came from her. She didn't know he kept doing it. The kitchen was completely quiet. Zara looked at her hands. He never mentioned that, she said. He probably didn't think it was interesting, Ji-hyun said. It's interesting, Zara said. It's very interesting, Ji-hyun said quietly. Nobody moved for a moment. Then Grandma Dot put her mug down. Not gently. With purpose. The solid sound of a woman setting something down, so both hands are free to say what needs to be said. He is a good man, she said. He got stuck in a bad system. Those are two different facts, and one of them doesn't change the other. Ji-hyun translated. Halmoni looked at Grandma Dot. The look she gave things she was making a decision about. Then she reached out, put her hand over Grandma Dot's on the table. 2 seconds. 3. The specific weight of something that didn't need words, because words were the smaller version of what was being communicated. Then she picked up her tea. The moment closed. And then Grandma Dot, because she was constitutionally incapable of leaving emotional weight in a room without doing something practical about it, looked at Halmoni and said, I need him to sort out that paperwork. Ji-hyun started laughing before the translation was out of her mouth. She pressed both hands over her face. It did not help. Ji-hyun, Grandma Dot said. I'm translating. Ji-hyun translated, still laughing. Halmoni listened. She looked at Grandma Dot for a long moment. Then, she says, Ji-hyun managed, with the last of her composure, she has been saying those exact words for 20 years. Grandma Dot pointed at Halmoni immediately. Then we agree. Halmoni pointed back. We agree, Ji-hyun translated. Tell her I have been waiting 3 months to say that to her directly. Translation. Halmoni's response arrived. Ji-hyun. She says she was waiting for someone to say it. Tell her it said. She says, finally. Tell her exactly. Zara looked at both of them pointing at each other across the kitchen table. You know, she said. Most people who agree just nod. Both grandmothers turned to look at her simultaneously. We are not most people, Grandma Dot said. Ji-hyun translated. Halmoni, for the first time in the entire visit, laughed loud enough that you could hear it clearly. Not the small corner of the mouth thing. Actual laughter, full and sudden, like something that surprised her by arriving. The kitchen went still for a second. Then Grandma Dot started laughing too. Zara stared at both of them. What just happened? She said to Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun was also laughing. I don't know, Ji-hyun said. But I think they're friends now. They were already. No, Ji-hyun said. Before was respect. This is friends. Day 3 was the danger zone. This was predictable. This was always how it went. First 2 days, calibration. Day 3, deployment. Zara came downstairs at 7:15 to find that one shelf in the kitchen had been reorganized. One shelf. The shelf above the secondary counter, which had previously held a variety of items in an arrangement that made complete sense to Grandma Dot and no visible sense to anyone else. The items were now arranged with a spatial efficiency that was immediately, undeniably, slightly infuriating in how obviously correct it was. Grandma Dot was at the stove. She had clearly seen it. She was making coffee with the specific composure of someone who had made a decision. "You saw the shelf," Zara said. "I saw it. What are you going to do?" "Nothing. Nothing. It's better. Does that? It bothers me that I didn't think of it myself," Grandma Dot said. "That's what bothers me. Not the shelf. The fact that I looked at that shelf for 11 years and didn't see what she saw in 11 minutes. Halmoni appeared in the kitchen doorway. She looked at the shelf, then at Grandma Dot. She said something. She says, Ji-hyun translated, arriving behind her with tea. "She only moved the one." "I noticed," Grandma Dot said. "She says the others are fine." "They are. She says." Ji-hyun paused. "She says you live here." Grandma Dot looked at Halmoni. "That's the right answer," she said. "I know," Ji-hyun translated. "She said I know like that. She says everything like that." Grandma Dot pointed at the kettle. "Make her tea. She's all ready. Make her more tea." Ji-hyun made more tea. The grocery run was day 4 and it was, by any objective measure, an event. Zara drove. Ji-hyun sat in the back with the expression of someone who had been running on professional obligation and Korean coffee for 4 days and had accepted this as her life now. The store had a particular morning rhythm, the flow of carts and people that moved in the predictable patterns of a Tuesday. The two grandmothers entered it, and the rhythm adjusted around them the way water adjusts around 2 rocks placed in a current. Produce section. Grandma Dot picked up a tomato. Assessed it. Approved it. Halmoni picked up a different tomato. Assessed it. Put it back. Picked up a third one and turned it over. The produce man who had known Grandma Dot for 9 years watched this. "She's thorough," he said to Grandma Dot. "She's thorough," Grandma Dot agreed. "She knows what she's looking for. She always does. Does she find it usually?" Grandma Dot watched Halmoni hold a tomato up toward the fluorescent lights. "Always," she said. Then they found the price discrepancy. It was on a shelf in the dry goods aisle, 2 nearly identical items side by side, one of which had a shelf label that did not match the price printed on its packaging. Grandma Dot saw it. Halmoni saw it approximately half a second later. They looked at each other. No words. They walked in unison to the nearest employee with the synchronized purpose of 2 people who had been negotiating for a combined total of 140 years and considered this a warm-up activity. The employee was a young man named, according to his tag, Marcus, who was 22 years old and had been stocking shelves for 8 months and had never been approached by 2 grandmothers moving in perfect formation. "The price on this item," Grandma Dot said, holding it up, "doesn't match the shelf label." Marcus looked at the item. He looked at the label. He looked at Grandma Dot. He looked at Halmoni. Halmoni held up the second item and pointed between the 2 prices with a single finger, moving it back and forth, which was a communication so clear it required no translator. Marcus called for a price check. Ji-hyun from 6 feet away said, "I am not involved in this." "Nobody said you were," Zara said. "I'm establishing it in advance." "Okay. As a precaution. I understand." The price check came back in the grandmother's favor. The discount was applied. Grandma Dot nodded. Halmoni nodded. Marcus processed the transaction with the expression of someone who had just witnessed something he couldn't fully categorize but knew he would be thinking about later. In the international aisle, Halmoni stopped. She reached for something on the 3rd shelf with the energy of someone encountering an old friend unexpectedly on a foreign street. It was a vegetable she used regularly in Seoul. She turned it over. "Read the packaging." "Turn it over again." "You can get that here?" Grandma Dot asked, through Ji-hyun. "Apparently," Halmoni said. "What do you make with it?" And a conversation started in the international aisle of an Atlanta grocery store that lasted 14 minutes, covered 3 different cooking methods, involved Grandma Dot picking up 2 additional items she had never bought before based entirely on Halmoni's description of what they did, and attracted 4 other shoppers who stopped to listen and didn't leave until the conversation ended. Ji-hyun, translated the whole thing standing between them without once consulting her phone or asking for a word to be repeated, with the fluency of someone who was operating on muscle memory and caffeine, and the specific determination of a person who had come too far to stop now. Afterward, in the checkout line, Zara looked at her. Ji-hyun, I'm fine. How are you actually doing? Ji-hyun appeared to consider this honestly. I translated a 14-minute cooking conversation between our grandmothers in an international aisle, she said. Then I translated a price dispute. Yesterday, I translated Halmoni asking your neighbor Gerald about his garden for 20 minutes while he showed her his tomatoes, and she gave him 3 specific criticisms that he said were the most useful garden feedback he had ever received. Gerald said that? He said he's going to try what she suggested. He seemed genuinely grateful. Ji-hyun looked at the checkout line. I am running on 4 hours of sleep, and whatever that thing was at the bottom of Halmoni's bag that she made me try this morning. What was it? I don't know, but it was very good, and I regret that I don't know what it was. Ji-hyun blinked. I just translated. I don't know what it was into Korean in my head. Ji-hyun. I'm fine, Ji-hyun said. I am completely fine. I apologized to a cereal box this morning in 2 languages, and I have made peace with that. Which 2 languages? Korean first, then English. I felt the English apology was necessary for completeness. Go sit in the car, Zara said. Yes, Ji-hyun said. That sounds correct. Sung-jin appeared from somewhere in the store, carrying 1 item and the expression of a man who had been having a completely different morning from everyone else and was comfortable with that. Where did you go? Zara asked. I ran into Gerald. He shops here on Tuesdays, Thursdays apparently. This is Thursday. Yes. And you just happened to be in the same aisle. The snack aisle, Sung-jin said. Yes. For how long? We got talking. Sung-jin. He has opinions about Korean snacks, Sung-jin said, with the tone of someone who finds this genuinely interesting. Very specific opinions. He ordered things online. He wanted to know if his assessment was accurate. Was it? Mostly yes. One he was wrong about, but I didn't tell him that because he was so confident. Zara stared at him. You are going to his cookout on Saturday, she said. Our flight is Saturday. I know. I already told him. I know. He said it was a shame. And Sung-jin looked at his 1 item. He said next time I'm in Atlanta I should come to a cookout, he said. And I said I would. You'll be back. I didn't say that. You implied it. I implied I would come to a cookout if I was in Atlanta. These are not the same statement. He paused. Gerald also gave me a very good barbecue recipe. He wrote it down on an actual piece of paper. In the store. He carries paper. He carries paper, Sung-jin said, with a quality of admiration that suggested he found this enormously practical. He said he learned it from his grandmother. She said if it's worth writing you write it on paper, not a phone, because phones break. Zara looked at Sung-jin for a moment. You and Gerald are the same person, she said. Sung-jin considered this. We are similar in some ways, he agreed, and walked to the car. The last night arrived the way last nights arrived, without ceremony, in the gap between dinner ending and the morning beginning, when the house had emptied and settled and the particular quiet of a borrowed time made itself known. Zara was on the couch with her phone when the kitchen light went on. She heard nothing for a moment. Then low voices, the specific register of a conversation happening at night when everyone else is asleep, and there is no reason to perform for anyone. She got up. From the hallway, she could see into the kitchen without being seen. Grandma Dot at the table with tea. Halmoni across from her. No Ji-hyun. No translator. Just the 2 of them, and the language they had built between themselves over a week, the pointing and the photographs, and the competed for shelf space, and the pot rack and the word interesting, and the 2 words mind your business, and the hand over a hand at a table, and the late-night laughter and soul that Zara had heard through a wall and thought about ever since. Grandma Dot slid something across the table. A photo. Zara recognized it from across the room. Diane and J1. Young, both laughing, a birthday party, before all the paperwork, before all the years. Halmoni looked at it. She looked at it for a long time. Then she got up. She came back with the photograph from her suitcase. The one that had been wrapped in cloths and Seoul, the one Ji-hyun had never asked about, the one that had been in the center of her bag the whole journey. She set it beside Grandma Dot's photo. Zara still couldn't see it fully from the hallway, but she could see its size, its frame, the way Halmoni placed it with both hands like something that deserved that kind of placing. The two women looked at the photograph side by side. Two people on two different sides of the world who had somehow made one person between them. Neither spoke for a while. Then Grandma Dot said something. Halmoni said something back. And then they were laughing. Not politely. Not carefully. The real kind. The kind that arrived from somewhere underneath words. The kind you couldn't translate because it wasn't language. It was just the thing that comes out when you have been carrying something for a long time and you suddenly find someone else who has been carrying the same thing from the other direction, and you both put it down at the same time. Zara stood in the hallway. She listened to both her grandmothers laugh together in a kitchen in Atlanta at 11:30 at night over photographs of two young people who had no idea what was coming. Something in her chest settled. Not everything, but something important. She went back to the couch. She pulled her blanket up. She fell asleep with the sound of their laughter still in the house. Morning came in fast. Bags were packed. Flights were at noon. The neighborhood had already convened on the front lawn with the organized spontaneity of people who had been briefed on the departure time and had made their own decisions about what to do with that information. Miss Gloria was there. Miss Patricia. Rhonda and her husband. The two women whose names Zara finally got at this point, Beverly and Constance, both holding containers of food for the road. Gerald, who had arrived before 8 o'clock and showed no sign of finding this unusual. Sung-jin shook Gerald's hand for approximately 90 seconds. "Come back," Gerald said. "My flight is today," Sung-jin said. "I know. Come back sometime. I live in Seoul. I know where Seoul is." A pause. "Do you?" "Looked it up Monday," Gerald said. "After we met. Did some reading." Sung-jin stared at him. "You researched Seoul?" "Some. The food mostly. Asked myself why I'd never tried Korean food properly before. Been missing out apparently." Gerald shook his head. "A lot of years of missing out." Sung-jin looked at Gerald. Gerald looked at Sung-jin. "We'll stay in touch," Sung-jin said. "We already are," Gerald said. Halmoni's goodbye with the church ladies was a 45-minute operation that nobody had planned and everyone participated in. Each church lady hugged her. Some of them bowed. Halmoni bowed back every time. Beverly cried, briefly and without apology. Constance gave Halmoni a handwritten note that Ji-hyun translated later. It said, "Thank you for coming to our neighborhood. We hope you feel it is yours too." Halmoni folded the note and put it in her jacket pocket with both hands. Pressed it flat, like something she was keeping. Grandma Dot's package to Halmoni was a cloth-wrapped bundle placed in Halmoni's hands with the seriousness of something being passed from one person to another for safekeeping. Tea, same as the night tea. A full box. And inside, tucked at the bottom, an envelope. Halmoni opened the envelope. A recipe card, handwritten in Grandma Dot's hand. "Mac and cheese," Grandma Dot said. "The real one," Ji-hyun translated. "Not the people one," Grandma Dot added. Halmoni pressed the envelope flat with both hands, put it in her jacket pocket, patted it once. "Tell her I want to know how it comes out," Grandma Dot said. Ji-hyun told her. Halmoni looked at Grandma Dot. "I'll call," she said. In English, clean and exact. "I'll answer," Grandma Dot said. Ji-hyun hugged Zara and did not let go for a while. "Seoul," Ji-hyun said into her shoulder. "Soon," Zara said. "Halmoni's already planning a room. Third configuration is the best." Ji-hyun laughed and pulled back, and her eyes were doing something she was pretending they weren't doing. "You know what she said this morning?" Ji-hyun said. "Before anyone else was up?" "What?" "She said." Ji-hyun paused. "She said she thought the family was complete before. She thought she had everything. She looked at Zara. Then she said, I was right. I just didn't know how big complete was going to be." Zara stood with that for a moment. Then she turned to Halmoni, who was already looking at her. She had been looking at her, Zara knew, for most of the morning. The way she looked at things she was storing. Thoroughly, without hurry, taking everything. Zara stepped forward. Halmoni's arms came out before she finished the step. The hug was the same as every other hug and also the longest one. Unhurried, past the polite point, not caring about the polite point. Halmoni held her face in both hands when they pulled back. She looked at her. said something quiet, in Korean, with a particular cadence of something she had been saving. Ji-hyun translated, soft. She says, you have your father's stubbornness and your mother's warmth. She says, both of those things are exactly right. Grandma, appearing at Zara's shoulder like a woman who had been waiting for exactly this moment. And some of my stubbornness, she said. Ji-hyun translated. Halmoni looked at Grandma Dot, the corner of her mouth. She says, Ji-hyun said, she knows. I knew she'd say that, Grandma said. She knows you knew, Ji-hyun said. Tell her. Mum, Diane said from the car. Both of them stopped. The car, Diane said. They got in the car. Zara waved from the window as they pulled away. The porch getting smaller. 2 women on it, one with a navy hat and one with perfect posture, both watching, both with their hands raised. Together, not coordinated, just both there, both raising their hands, both watching her go. She watched until the porch disappeared. Then she looked forward. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out. A message from her father. Call me. Good news. She looked at the message. Her heart did something she didn't have a name for yet. Mom. Diane was driving. She caught Zara's eyes in the rearview mirror. What? Dad texted. And he says good news. A pause. Diane pulled the car to the side of the road. Not gradually. Decisively. Like a woman who had decided that some messages got answered on the side of the road and not in motion. Call him, she said. Zara called. He answered before the second ring. The conversation was 2 minutes and 14 seconds. She counted them later. He talked, mostly. She said yes. She said, are you certain? He said yes. She said how soon, and he said 6 months. His lawyer said 6 months. Maybe less if the final review went quickly. She hung up. The street outside was ordinary. Atlanta going about its Tuesday. Traffic and trees, and the specific quality of morning light that she had grown up in and never thought about until she had something to see it through. The paperwork, she said. The car was very quiet. Diane's hands were on the wheel and not moving. What about it? Diane said. It went through. The kind of silence that is weight. The kind that a room, or a car, holds when something lands that has been expected for so long that the arriving of it is almost harder than the waiting. 6 months, Zara said. Maybe less. Diane's jaw moved once. She looked straight ahead. Okay, she said. Not small. Not defeated. The okay of a woman who had been holding something for 24 years and had just been told she could put it down and wasn't sure yet how to do that with her hands. Mom. I heard you. Mom. Zara. Diane looked at her. Her eyes were doing something she wasn't going to explain. I heard you. They sat. Then Zara's phone buzzed. Ji-hyun landed safe. Halmoni already has opinions about the gate seating. I have been translating for 15 minutes, and we haven't left the terminal. Zara read it. Then she laughed. The real kind. The full kind. The kind that came from all the places at once. The relief and the joy and the 24 years and the 6 months, and both grandmothers on a porch with their hands up and a kitchen at midnight and 47 people in blue robes and mac and cheese and sweet potato pie and a man who called every Sunday without fail because his mother did it first. Diane heard it. Her face changed. She turned the car back on. Call your grandmother, she said. Which one? A look in the mirror. Grandma Dot first, Diane said. Before Miss Gloria finds out somehow. Zara was already dialing. 1 ring. Baby. Grandma. Dad's paperwork came through. Silence. The specific silence of Dorothy Washington receiving news she had been asking God for longer than she would say to anyone. Lord, she said. Quietly. Just that. 6 months. Maybe less. 6 months. Yes. Another silence. I need to call Halmoni. Grandma. She just got on a... I have Sung Jin's number. You don't need to. I have things to say. What things? I don't know yet, she said. But they need to be said and she needs to hear them first. Zara looked out the window. Okay, she said. I'm already dialing, Grandma said. Grandma! But she was already gone. Already on to the next thing. Already moving. Because that was who she was. That was who she had always been. The one who moved, who prepared, who showed up, who stayed, who drove 3 people to an airport at 5 in the morning and boarded a flight to Seoul without being asked, who stood in a church parking lot with her arms wide and said, "Welcome to my house," as if Atlanta itself was hers to give, who made the real recipe for someone who came from 7,000 miles away and sat in her kitchen and told her the pots were interesting. The woman who, when the good news finally came after 24 years of waiting, already had the phone to her ear before you finished the sentence. Zara put her phone down. She leaned her head against the window. Atlanta moved past outside, the city she grew up in, the city she had always known, looking the same and feeling entirely different, the way things look when you have finally understood something about them you didn't have before. 6 months, maybe less. She pressed her hand flat against the glass. Like a wave, like something you send forward toward what's coming. She kept it there for a while. If this story found you somewhere it was supposed to, drop it in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what time it is. Tell me which grandmother you have, the one who shows up without warning, or the one who reorganizes your shelf, or the one who both of those things and more. Like this video. Share it with someone who understands that families aren't built in straight lines, that love travels in paperwork and Sunday phone calls and 14-hour flights and sweet potato pie, that some things take 24 years and the answer is still yes, and it was always going to be yes. Subscribe to this channel because this family is not finished, and neither are we, and you need to be here when part 3 comes. And if you want to be part of this community, every single time we drop a story, the membership is open and it is worth it. Early access, bonus content, the satisfaction of being part of something that keeps growing because of people exactly like you. The link is right below. We built this together. We'll see you in the next one.